Did your friend join the dark side by playing Fiendsmith Ryzeal? Sick of him bragging he won locals that one time? Want to make him regret spending over $600 on a deck? Then it's time to get good. I'm just joking, guys. Hey guys, it's Tom Box, and today we're exposing how to beat Fiendsmith Ryzeal. It's gonna be different from our how to beat Ryzeal video because the extra deck is different, the board building is different, the ceiling is higher with Fiendsmith Ryzeal, and we're gonna talk more about the interactions that that deck has to offer. So I'm not gonna waste time by going over every single card. I'm gonna go over every interaction they have, going first, going second, how they break boards, and card combinations that you can use against your opponent, and the timing for them, and how they can potentially counterplay you after the fact, all in this giant list. So make sure you guys hit the like button, hit subscribe, ding that notification bell. But first I'm going to go over a quick combo, and if you want to skip this combo tutorial level, feel free to go to the time code here, and without further ado, hit that like button, hit subscribe, ding the notification bell, and let's go. Most Fiendsmith Ryzeal combos are different starts aiming for the same ending, and this is one variation with Ice Ryzeal as the normal summon. Normal summon Ice Ryzeal effects, special summon out X Ryzeal from the deck, X Ryzeal effect, add Sword Ryzeal, and we're going to take these two, link summon into Moon of the Closed Heaven. We're not locked out just yet, and now we're going to link down into Fiendsmith Requiem effect, special summon out Lacrima of the Crimson Tears effect, send the Fiendsmith Engraver into the graveyard, activate Engraver's effect, we're going to put the Moon of the Closed Heaven back into the extra deck, summoning out Engraver, activate Requiem's effect, targeting the Lacrima, equipping the two together, allowing us to contact fuse into Necrocorp Princess. The two level 6 fiends, we're going to overlay them together, creating DDD Wave High King Caesar Xyz summon, and now that we've created that to insulate ourselves from Nib, now we're going to special summon out the Sword Ryzeal. Sword Ryzeal effects, add the X Ryzeal into our hand, special summon the X Ryzeal by sending Mirror Logic Aggregator. We don't get the search because we already used it. Overlay the two level 4s into Ryzeal Dual Drive effect, or attach yourself with an X Ryzeal, activate the Dual Drive's effect, and we're going to send 2, and that's going to allow us to add Cross and Node. Activate the Cross right away, special summon out the Node Ryzeal, and to get an extra card in our hand to pay for the cost of Node Ryzeal, we're going to put back the Sword and the X, and that's going to allow us to draw one card. Using Node Ryzeal's effect, we're going to send that extra monster away to summon back our Ice Ryzeal in the graveyard, allowing us to overlay the two monsters and overlay an Xyz summon into our Ryzeal Detonator effect. We're going to attach our Mirror Logic Aggregator, finishing the combo like this, giving us 2 summon negates from the DD Wave High King Caesar, triple pop from the Detonator, and we have also the Ryzeal Cross for another monster negation. Alright, tutorial's over. Let's break it down. Going first, Fiendsmith Ryzeal are building towards the following interaction. Ryzeal Detonator, which is chain to pop, can do it X amount of times equal to the number of material it has. DDD Wave High King Caesar, it negates the special summon effects of cards and also destroys a card. That can activate twice. Mirror Logic Aggregator, which is a card negate, which happens once per turn. Ryzeal Cross, also once per turn. It's a monster effect negation that does not attach to any chain as long as you have the correct material. Fiendsmith in Paradise. Now this can be kind of hidden behind a Lacrima and a Requiem, but the Lacrima will dump this card into the graveyard to offer an additional interaction against you, and that's another 1 removal of any card on the field as long as you special summon. That totals to 5 interactions without the Fiendsmith engine and 8 interactions with the Fiendsmith engine. That's a lot of layered interaction against you, but when they're going second, they have a lot of built-in board breakers as well. Once again, Ryzeal Detonator plays a key role in here as the chain to pop removal equal to the number of material. Post Ryzeal Detonator, every interaction that you try to put out against it is going to cost you an additional card on the field. So be very careful when it comes to interacting with this card. And then there's also Exciting Night you can use as a board wipe. You can do it twice because it's not once per turn, it's once per chain. And if you do manage to negate this, it typically follows up into the Fiendsmith engine if they are not locked under rank 4 restriction from the Ryzeal monster. So now there's also the Mirror Logic Aggregator that's typically going to be sent by the X Ryzeal. Since it's sent by X Ryzeal, they can form a little bit of a chain block if needed. Now, Fiendsmith Desiree acts as a negation if they can get there, but if it can't, not to worry, they can also make it into an Agnum Day. An Engraver is also another monster removal by sending the equip and 1 monster on the field. And then finally, there's Chaos Angel. For those of us who do not play Agnum Day, then Chaos Angel can be in the extra deck, acting as an on-field removal, but is also kind of protected because you're using light monsters, double light monsters, to create this Chaos Angel. And since it's protected from Nibiru and most monster-based interaction, it's still a very sticky monster, even if it doesn't have battle protection. So the mentality of tackling some of these monsters is that either A, you let them come out, but you don't let them get any value, or B, you prevent them from coming out altogether, preventing yourself from taking massive losses. And that's the mentality you should be approaching when taking down the Fiendsmith Ryzeal matchup. All right, so let's take a look at the interaction points. So this is like the super cheat sheet. There's 4 parts to this: the hand trap basics, counterplay lines, board breaker lines, and going first options. These are 7 most effective and commonly played hand traps against the Fiendsmith Ryzeal matchup. These are very commonly played right now in the current format, so you can just expect them to exist. And there's also Joel and Lockbird, but I'm not the biggest fan of Joel because you can still just lose the card and they'll still build a board, and if they have hand traps to go with it, it's still like an uphill battle. But let's look at the mulch armies first. We have Furlos and Perulia. They're the Ash check, and essentially a turn skip if they don't have it, because they have to basically just make a detonator and pass and maybe offer you 2 cards along the way. That part sucks. Furlos, not as strong, but it's usually a little bit better on the ice check. Aside from that, it's gonna be pretty good because a lot of these monsters, they're pretty easy to break. As for the other 5, Ash, the Imperm, Ghost Ogre, Nibiru, and Bestial Druisworm, these are very effective. However, you're going to likely need a second hand trap for them to see maximum effectiveness, especially Nibiru. Nibiru probably won't even work if you just have Nibiru because they set up so much negation. They can bait you to play it early. So what are you doing with these hand traps? You're essentially trying to stop them from starting off their board, so you hit the starters, or you go for end board removal and turning off the threats. Their counterplay would be coming from Ash Blossom, Crossout Designator, Seravis, and also Ryzeal Cross if they successfully build the board. Now, when it comes to the starters, there's only really 1 card you have to stop, which is the Duo Drive. Everything else kind of doesn't matter. Then there's gonna be a time where maybe you have to stop the main deck monsters, which is not recommended, by the way, but if you do want to stop it, the one that you should probably aim to negate is going to be Sword Ryzeal, because Sword Ryzeal is the one that gets X. X can get them another follow-up through Node, and that's the one that probably bridges most of them, and you're going to have to take a gamble. That's only if you're forced to take a gamble. As for end board removal, then you're going to have to look at the Detonator and the Mirror Logic Aggregator, because those are going to be the 2 that goes hand in hand no matter what. And then you might have to look into dealing with some of the Fiendsmith end boards. It could be a Desiree, it could be a DDD Wave High King Caesar. So what do we do? All right, counterplays. We're looking at hand combinations to deal with them via the hand traps right now. So starting off with the Nibiru and another hand trap. Nibiru and Imperm, quite simple. Once you get to Duo Drive, they already made their DDD Wave Hiking Caesar. They have their Duo Drive. They activate Duo Drive, you chain Nibiru. They chain DDD Wave Hiking Caesar, you chain Imperm, and now you wipe their entire board. And hopefully they don't have Node Ryzeal yet, because while they searched for Sword Ryzeal as the follow-up, and Sword Ryzeal is the one that went into Duo Drive, right? So if they got there, that means they don't have Node yet, or they could have hard opened it, because these are just very low card count combos. But if they do have Node Ryzeal, or they have Play Plug, or they have extra Ice Ryzeals that they can push forward to, they're still going to end with a Detonator. And also, they're likely going to have Fiendsmith in Paradise in the graveyard, because they already went through a Fiendsmith combo, so they could still have about 4 interactions against you, but it's very easy to deal with because it's so focused onto 1 card. So that's going to be your benefit to play. If you have Ash instead of Imperm, then you Ash the Requiem, so they don't get to actually follow up and build the entire Fiendsmith line. And as they perform their combos, that's when you can drop their Nibiru, because if they committed into the Lurie summon, into the Requiem, that's 2, and then once they get into Duo Drive, you can wipe the entire board, because that would be summon on 5. Another very interesting one is the Ogre and Nibiru. So this is actually quite neat, because if you activate the Ghost Ogre, so say you let them go into DD Way Hiking Caesar and they get to Duo Drive, they activate Duo Drive and you Ogre the Duo Drive. Duo Drive destroys itself, but they also have to continue to resolve Duo Drive. So they're going to detach 2 materials off of Wave Hiking Caesar, and now that Wave Hiking Caesar has no materials left, sure, they're going to get the search of Ryzeal Cross and probably like the Ryzeal Node. So if they get Node Ryzeal, I don't know if they can actually even summon that card. They're going to play the Cross for sure, and then they're going to maybe try to summon out the Node and misplay. Because first of all, Duo Drive is gone, so there's no level 4 monsters. And if they drop Node, you can drop Nibiru now. And now the board actually gets wiped. Sure, there's a cross on the board, but there's actually no monster for you to actually feel threatened by. So that's an interesting one. Now, as for the triple hand traps, these are actually pretty common as well, because you play like 18 hand traps. It's going to be Ash, Imperm, Ogre. You're essentially trying to do the same thing. You're trying to stop the Fiendsmith engine from kicking off, and then you're going to use a dual hand trap to stop the Duo Drive. You're likely going to have to still eat the Detonator, and luckily for you, eating Detonator is not exactly the hardest thing out there. As for Bestial Druisworm, there's multiple angles to tackle on this, but essentially one of the more focused one would be to take away the Mirror Logic Aggregator when they go for that particular play. But if they're going for Fiendsmith line first, you're going to be forced to take away the Fiendsmith, and that's when they try to summon Fiendsmith back out of the graveyard so you can prevent the DDD Wave Hiking Caesar. And when you can prevent that, and they already committed so much into the summoning, it upped the summoning count to the point where Nibiru can also take out the problem. But in the case that they don't start with Fiendsmith, you can take out the Aggregator, and you have to do it pretty early before the Ryzeal Cross comes down, because if Cross comes down, you're not likely going to be able to summon, and Mirror Logic Aggregator will still be attached, and you're going to be a turn behind. So in that case, you get rid of whatever you can, the Mirror Logic Aggregator, summon it onto the field, and just let them build a Detonator, because Druisperm automatically threatens the Detonator by sending it to the graveyard. So now we can use some of the hand traps as board breakers. So this one's kind of like strictly counterplay, but if they have Fiendsmith in Paradise and you're holding an Ash, you can use that to protect your monsters from getting sent to the graveyard, or any of your cards being sent to the graveyard, because both Metatronus, if you're playing like against a mirror match and they use Metatronus against you, and Fiendsmith in Paradise all have an interaction with the deck which allows Ash to negate them. I've seen people just letting those cards go off while they're holding an Ash because they completely forgot that it can negate those cards. Then there's also Imperm. Imperm is used to turn off the DDD Wave Hiking Caesar, so you can get your special summons in, or you can just negate the Detonator, opening like your ability to keep monsters onto the field. Their counterplay could be just a Forbidden Lance. I've seen people side this in just so that they can keep the Ryzeal Detonator on the board. And it's actually really annoying too, because it almost feels like they're playing Kashtira, and that's the Arise Heart, and it's just an Arise Heart that pops everything. So it's a little bit more annoying, a little bit stronger, and you can't just destroy it by battle because it can protect itself from battle at least once. So battle phase might not be a direct option. And the other option is if they play Ryzeal Plug. Ryzeal Plug is kind of wild because they'll just destroy their own Ryzeal. They use it as like a 1-for-1 trade, and they'll just Ryzeal Plug the Detonator back onto the field and then attach the material directly onto it from the deck, and then they're going to attach the Mirror Logic Aggregator back onto it, giving them the negate, again. So then there's Lightning Storm and Triple Tack. So Lightning Storm, kind of an odd one because it's better than the useless cards in your deck, and it provides you with removal from the back row. Ryzeal Cross being one of the negations, but if there's multiple back rows also there, like Crossout Designators, Imperm, Solemn Judgment, you can force the Solemns, you can get rid of the Imperm, you can make a 2-for-1 negation trade, which is fantastic. And so if you have a dead card that's in the deck, then that's probably one you should take out. As for Triple Tack, this is one of my favorites. Let me break down the interaction chain with you. It's really funny when they have a DD, Wave Hiking Caesar, and a Detonator on board. This is probably one of my favorite plays. So they blow up a card, sure. Now you activate Triple Tack. You go for the option to take. What are their options here? Even if they have a set plug. So they can blow up the Detonator, okay, and just give you the Wave Hiking Caesar. But then they can't play Plug, because if they try to play Plug, it's going to get negated by the Wave Hiking Caesar. So that's not a viable option. Okay, so what if they destroy the Wave Hiking Caesar? Then you take the Detonator. And when you take the Detonator, that means you have the option to blow up cards. Okay, so then what if they detach the Mirror Logic Aggregator, and so that it would negate the Detonator after? Well, here's the thing. They'll blow up the Wave Hiking Caesar, so they'll get the summon negation. You take the Detonator, Mirror Logic Aggregator activates, and you get to chain your Detonator, or your opponent's Detonator, to maybe hit the Ryzeal Plug in the back row, or the Ryzeal Cross, in case they have an additional monster still available. So Triple Tactics Talent just forces the whole board to kind of go into like mayhem mode. I mean, Metatronus essentially is acting as like a Forbidden Chalice, but that generates you an additional body, and there is no response for your opponent. So that's also pretty good for taking out the Detonator, but you can also use it to turn off the DDD Wave Hiking Caesar if you play something to match it. So that's for like mirror matches. Counterplay to that, the Seravis, just since it's target based, you can just activate it, and then that will be the end of that. As for Ultimate Slayer, I find that this one's kind of be like, it always resolves, and it always takes out two things. It turns off your Ryzeal Cross and also gets rid of your Detonator. And it's not like you can just go plug and summon it back, because it shuffles it back into the deck. It's good when you have it, so you can see why so many people choose it as an option. And finally, the major board breakers, we have Book of Eclipse and Lava Golem. So Book of Eclipse is a high-risk, high-reward situation here. Yes, it's very, very strong. It's very good. And it can turn off the Wave King, it can turn off Detonator, it can turn off Cross, and whatever else that they have on the field. However, it is met with the problem that there's a lot of counterplay, like Ryzeal Plug, if they're playing pure Ryzeal, or they're just using the plugin themselves as a set card, they can blow up their own Detonator and revive and turn back on Detonator and Cross. They have Solemn Judgment, they can negate the card, because you're only playing Book of Eclipse because you can play it. Well, or you're playing Malice and you don't really care, but you can use this as like a mass book flip, which is still pretty good. Or they have Ash Blossom, because Book of Eclipse draws cards, so it can get negated there and nothing gets flipped, so it's high risk. And on the other hand, if they didn't go into Wave Hiking Caesar, it can also get negated by Fiendsmith Ryzeal, so those are some of the pretty big limitations. Then finally, if you can afford to play Lava Golem's not bad. Takes away the detonator, takes away the Wave Hiking Caesar. Yes, it eats up your normal summon, so you need to play a deck that doesn't require a normal summon to really just flourish with this card. It's very, very good. It removes what, 4 interactions on its own? 5? No, it removes 5 interactions on its own with just 1 copy of Lava Golem. That's how good it is. And if you're going first, D-Barrier shuts off all the Exceed summons, forcing them only into Fiendsmiths. So if you activate D-Barrier, when they special summon from the hand, they don't even get to touch the extra deck anymore, making the board completely fragile for the entire turn. It's only for a turn, so if they counter you with hand traps, you're still probably going to have to give them a turn back, and you better build a decent board. Then there's also Solemn Strike. Solemn Strike, Solemn Judgment, both are extremely strong. I find them to be some of the best options available because you can negate the extra deck summons and they can't really gain any value out of it. Also can be used to deal with the big counterplays from monster effects. Now, one thing I don't recommend would be floodgating this deck unless your deck is a stun deck that has multiple floodgates, because it's not going to work because of built-in outs like Murilogic Aggregate and X Ryzeal. Yes, you can play cards like, oh, I want to modulate their level. I want to change their levels and whatnot so that they can't exceed summon. And that's it for the TLDR version of how to beat Fiendsmith Ryzeal. If you guys want to add a matchup that you don't like down in the comment section, so maybe I'll tackle it in the future, well, leave it down in the comment section. If you guys enjoyed this video, smash that thumbs up button, hit subscribe, ding that notification bell if this kind of enlightened you in terms of certain interaction that you weren't completely sure of. Well, I write down all the ways I lose, and then I kind of regurgitate it to you guys because I've just been playing non-stop Fiendsmith Ryzeal for the last, I don't know, maybe 8 hours a day, and then just give you the things that work, give you the things that don't work, and essentially that's all we have here for today. Thanks for watching, and if you guys like this video, hit that thumbs up, hit subscribe, ding that notification bell, check out MST.TV, and I'll see you all in the next one.